recognize that bad things happen sometimes to good people, right? So if you go through a divorce, or you go through a situation where you made a decision to purchase something, and then you found a year or two later with the loss of employment, or loss of hours on the job, that you no longer had the capacity to cover and pay that bill, does that make you a bad person? No, of course not. So how does that really speak to your character? So bad things happen to good people sometimes. So it's not about the character. But again, just know that there are some entities out there that look at the 5 C's of lending, where I'm more of a component of the 4 C's. I eliminate the character part, because again, you can have, terrible credit and not be a terrible person. You just went through a situation that you find yourself, in a situation where now that negative situation is impacting your credit report. And I'll be remiss if I didn't say this before we go to halftime here, guys. The credit report is really a credit history report. The young lady last week mentioned that the two major, how does she put it? The two major components of your credit is your history. How long have you actually had the credit card, and how you paid on it is the second thing. So it's the history, the length, how long it's been, and the other is how well you paid on it. So here's the rule of thumb, and I'm sort of getting into some forensic stuff here, but I'm hoping that on the playback this will make a lot more sense than what it might be making if you're hearing this information for the first time. When it comes to credit, good or bad, right? They work this way. Good credit, the longer it is, the longer the history of the good credit, the more impactful that particular trade line is to your credit. So if you have a credit card that you've been paying on time for the last 3 years, that credit card is going to have much more of an effect on your score, on your composite credit score, than a credit card that's in good standing that you've had for only 3 months. So when it comes to good or positive credit, the longer and older it is, speaking of the history, the more impactful it is. The shorter the time frame, the less impactful. When it comes to negative or bad credit, it's just the opposite. If you can imagine, having a repo last month would hurt your credit a whole lot more than a repo you had 6 years ago, because the history is that it happened is bad and it happened 6 years ago. So every subsequent year, it had less and less impact, right? When it comes to, again, I hope that makes sense, because I can go on for days and days talking about credit, but I hope that makes sense. So the good credit, the longer it is, the more impact it has. The newer it is, the less impact it has. Doesn't mean it's negative, it's just less of an impact, right? So when somebody repairs your credit and then you go and get a credit card, yeah, that credit card is going to help your credit score today, but it's really going to help your credit score in 2 years, because it'll be a 2-year-old account as opposed to a 1 week or a 1 month old account, right? But it's just the opposite when we're talking about negative credit. More recent, more impactful. Less recent, less impactful to your credit. So I tell people all the time, if you got an account that's been in collections for the last 7 or 8 years, and now it's in a status known as a charge-off, do not pay cash, or don't pay them. Hear this, guys. I don't give credit advice. I'm just saying wisdom. Don't pay them, because they've already gotten paid. That's why it's a write-off. They wrote off. That's why it's a charge-off. They wrote it off as a loss to their business with their insurance, which they have to carry, right? They have to carry insurance. So if you don't pay, they tried to collect, then you still didn't pay, and now they write it off as a profit and loss. Now it changes the status on your credit report. It goes from a collection to now a charge-off. Why pay a charge-off? Why pay them if they've already gotten paid with their credit? Yeah. My sister is asking, why do they chase you? Well, that's an easy answer, Riri. They chase you because they want that money. There are, as I mentioned earlier, they are for profit. They're for-profit companies, and they set themselves up in an LLC. I'm speaking of TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. I'm not saying they're just doing money grabs, but I'm simply saying they're in business to make money. So our ignorance of the way it works, it lends itself to them And you're right, because it's greed. Real talk. Because they've already gotten paid, right? And I don't listen, I'm a proponent of a win-win scenario. I have no problem with working with the company, working with the entity that's a for-profit entity, and they make a profit on me. They're in business to make a profit. But I don't want to be on the losing end of that, right? Where I paid for something and now I find I can't pay for it, so I'm being penalized. It shows on my credit report that this account has gone 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or whatever, late, to the point that now it's just moved over into their collection department. They're trying to collect. They're harassing me on the phone, right? And I'll talk about that some other time. But the collection of them collecting speaks to the other act of Congress, which again is called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. I'm not making this stuff up, guys. It's an actual act of Congress that regulates how those creditors can come after you. They can't call you before 9 o'clock. They can't call you after 9 o'clock. They can't call you once you acknowledge to them that you know I owe this debt. Listen, I owe this debt. I recognize that. But you're calling and insisting on calling me and basically running my blood pressure up is not causing me to pay faster. All you're doing is harassing me at this point. So what you would say to them is any further continuation of trying to reach out to me, I deem it as harassment. I have rights under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Now, most of them will stop calling you because they know if they get caught in that act of breaking that constitutional rights law for you, it's a $10,000 fine. If anyone listened to my guest last week, she was saying, listen, I tie this into getting money for my clients because when these creditors break the law, if we don't know that they broke the law, we just go about our own business being miserable because they're harassing us and we can't get no sleep. Or we take the bull by the horns, talk with someone like TM Consultants, or even someone like myself, who's a mortgage professional, and we'll tell you, no, you have rights when it comes to this thing. We don't have phone calls. Even when things were going bad for my wife and I back in the day, we didn't get harassed by a bunch of people calling because I knew the rights. I knew my rights, and I would sometimes take the phone from Cindy and say, listen, we acknowledge the debt, and any further communication is just going to be deemed harassment. We know our rights according to the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. By the time I say that, man, they're done with us. They ain't calling no more. You know what I'm saying? So knowing your rights and knowing that you do have rights is part of this whole equation. I'm not going to go through every question because time is not going to allow me. As a matter of fact, if I may, my good friends, we are experiencing some issues, some technical issues here at the radio station, but that never, ever, ever.
We're back.
Are we back?
Yes.
Man, they said we're back. So listen, what we're going to do right now, we're going to take a halftime break so I can catch my breath and you can listen to my new track. Can we play that second track, man? Straight from the top.
Yes, sir.
Let's do that, brother. Since back live. That's what's up. Technology is always trying to challenge us, guys, but winners do what winners do. And I know I'm not the only winner on this line, right? Go ahead, brother.
Thank y'all for tuning in to the Cup of Joe Morning Show, everybody. We hope you're enjoying the show. We'll be right back.
Cup of Joe Morning Show. It's the Cup of Joe, Cup of Joe, Cup of Joe, Cup of Joe.
Yeah.
Good morning. Cup of Joe Morning Show. Yeah, Cup of Joe Morning Show. Good morning.
Listen, I love jamming to these tracks, man. I mean, they sort of bouncing in the morning. But I want to get back to where we are, and thank you, my dear Cindy, for putting in the information. Again, the two major acts of Congress that pertain to our credit reports is the Fair Debt. The Fair. I'll give it to you in the order: the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. They're two acts of Congress that protect us as Americans, as consumers, from inaccurate reporting on our credit report, because we know and they know that the credit report, everyone looks at that. Our social security number, and I heard something last week that blew me away. I was told our social security number, we know it's an identifier, but it's also our credit card, is what I was told last week. And we have every right to control our credit card, right? And yeah, so the point becomes these two acts of Congress are in place to protect our rights, but we need to know our rights to ensure that we're not being taken advantage of. And it happens all the time. And as my sister was saying, she was at Miss Rita was asking a question, then why are they constantly coming after you? Well, they're doing it because they're for profit, and they're banking on the fact that we don't know. So they're going to keep coming and coming and coming. And even the third party LLCs, the collection companies, you notice they always come with, hey, Ms. Humphrey, I understand that you owe this amount, but we'll satisfy this account by you paying this amount. And they'll accept a far less, sometimes even 50% off. Well, you know why? Because they bought that trade line, as it were. They bought that debt from the original creditor for pennies on the dollar. That original creditor has already gotten paid, y'all. Why? Because they wrote it off. It's identified to you as a charge off on your credit report. That lets you know they've gotten paid. It's even to the point, guys, to make this point really hammer home. As a mortgage lender, we don't even look at charge offs the same way we do as collections. We don't. They have far less impact. Why? Because it's after the fact, right? It's already gone through hard to pay, can't pay, slow pay, whatever. They got it into collections. Now it's in collections. Boom. Now they couldn't collect. They tried and they couldn't collect from you. So now they just write it off, and it reflects as a charge off. For you to now go and start paying on it would be just bad business for you altogether. So we don't recommend that you would do that. But again, knowing these types of things helps you to navigate in the world of finance, as it were. But I will say this again: do not allow them to intimidate you, because it's all bark and no bite, right? If we know what our rights are. Now, if we don't know and we just say, I don't really care, I don't know about credit. I hear people say that all the time, man, I don't care about that. I pay cash for everything. No, man, you're in your 60s. You cannot just continue to pay cash for everything. And now you're a ghost when it comes to your credit. Yeah, they'll let you make a little money here and there, but you ain't going to really cash in unless you're playing the game the right way. Okay. That's just the way it works, guys. So we got to learn to play the game. So here's the question that was asked: how does my credit score affect my ability to purchase a home? Well, again, it does affect it, but does it? Here's the question. Here's a better question, right? If I have less than perfect credit, can I still purchase a home? And the answer is absolutely yes. Absolutely yes, right? My sister is asking, great question. Does it reinstate the debt to start paying it back? It doesn't reinstate the debt, What it reinstates is the time frame. Remember, the debt we're talking about two aspects of it: the history, how long it is, and your history as far as how you paid on it. If you had late pays or slow pays or no pays, right? So by paying it doesn't reinstate the debt. But what it does, it just reinforces and it starts the time frame over. Let's say if you got a charge off. I don't want to say a charge off. Don't pay anybody that's charged off. If you have a collection, right? If you have a collection that's 3 years old, right? The law states that these items can stay on your credit report and stay current on your report for 7 to 10 years. We used to say 7 years is done. No. Federal accounts like student loans and even child support or anything dealing with the federal, it stays potentially for 10 years. So what you're doing by starting to pay it, if it's already in collections, right, is you're starting that 7 to 10 year cycle over again, right? If you got a collection that's like 6.5, 7 years old, man, don't try and negotiate. You know, it's best to try and get it removed using the Fair Credit Reporting Act to get it, disputed, get it removed, because they have to prove. It's not on us to prove, it's on them to prove that it's accurate. We say it's inaccurate. It's on us to say whether or not we believe it's accurate or not. And if we say that it's not, it's on them now to prove that it is. The problem is we don't normally have the type of language that will get our point across to the creditor. That's why we have these letters that we draft that are very, very, I hate to use the word threatening, but they are threatening. But it lets the creditors know that we know our rights. And any further or continuance of what you're doing, you might be part of a class action lawsuit. In other words, don't play with me, because you're playing with my livelihood when you're playing with my credit. So we can get, not that we get puffed up, but we can take a different temperament when it comes to the whole situation, that we're not going to no longer be bullied by debt collectors. They have to operate under a certain decorum that they typically do not. And we just think they were just rude. No. It can cost them $10,000, right?
Joe, let me ask a quick question, just to make sure I'm understanding you,
Mhm.
and making sure those who are not that familiar with
Mhm.
this process, make sure they understand it clearly.
Mhm.
You're telling me that these companies, these third-party collection agencies that call you all day, every day, asking you, can you pay this? Can you pay that? Just send us $5. That's all you can afford. You're telling me that they purchased your debt
Yes.
at pennies on the dollar. The original agency has written you off. It's charged it off.
Let me better explain it, okay? Because we're talking about, if it's a charge off, it's just a charge off. That means that the original company that you did business with, be it a credit card or whatever, you did business with XYZ company. If they got to a point that now they tried to collect and they haven't been able to collect, and they just wrote it off in their profit, in that company's profit and loss, that means it turns into a charge off on your credit report, right? What a third party company, they're not a collector, they're a third party, they're not a bureau or anything like that. They're a third party collector. Third party because it wasn't the company that you went to, it's a company that went to that company and said, hey, Mr. Jackson owes you $2,800 for this charged off account. It's already been written off. So they sell it to this other company. This other company is not going to pay $2,800 for it. They're going to pay pennies on the dollar. So they say, we'll give you $450 for this account. Literally, they get the account. They know they're in this account with $450. Anything they collect over $450 is profit to them.
Wow.
I'm simply saying, why pay them if you know all they're doing is just trying to get that? It's a money grab.
Okay.
And the law makes it, here's the thing, and that's a great question. Here's what the law says. Oh, I'm sorry. They're saying they couldn't hear the question. The question is essentially what Malcolm was asking was for me to elaborate and to explain, because he was like, are you trying to tell me, Joe, that there's third party companies that had nothing to do with you purchasing that item or getting that credit card or whatever, that comes after you couldn't pay and basically buys that account for pennies on a dollar and then comes after you again to have you pay? Absolutely, that's what they're doing. And they got it for pennies on a dollar, so they're always willing to take less money than what you originally owed. And we think, oh, they're trying to give us a deal. Man, they're just trying to collect additional money from you. And guess what? The penalty for not paying, they can't repo your Nikes you bought on with your Visa card. They can't penalize you by repoing it, right? How can they do that? What they'll do, though, is penalize you by reporting derogatory activity on your credit report. That makes it difficult to get another card or to get another pair of Nikes. Are you feeling me? That's the way this thing works. Us knowing how it works is us saying, no. Yes, I could not pay. As a result, it reflects on my credit report as negative credit. But here's the problem. You're trying to now collect and give me what I call double jeopardy. You can only penalize me once. You can't penalize me over and over and over, but that's what you're trying to do. So knowing this, you just put a stopgap in that thing and say, no, no, no. I know my rights. If you actually, third-party collector, want to see me collect, you want to collect from me, prove to me that the information is accurate. Send me the original paperwork that shows my signature that I signed for this. And in most cases, they can't. Because they didn't buy all the paperwork, they just bought the account. They don't have all the paperwork.
So okay. So I'm with you. I'm with
they
you.
They can't
so
hear
far.
you.
Okay. I'm with you so far, everybody. I'm with you so far. Joe's explanation was perfect. I'm trying to speak up to level. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear me. I understand exactly what you're saying, but what route at that point? I know you've already said, hey, pump your brakes. I don't have to continue with this conversation because this is double jeopardy. What route do you take then, though? I mean, as it pertains to cleaning your record report up. Right. How do you your credit report? How do you backdoor them and say, okay, they called, so that means the original company has sold my credit report?
No, they didn't sell your credit report. They just sold that one item.
I mean, they sold that one item.
That one item. And again, I don't want to make this, and I know you're not trying to. I don't want to make this all super duper convoluted and real spooky. No, we're demystifying it. There's professional people out there. That's why I had the young lady with me last week.
Okay.
That's what she does.
Okay.
She does charge to do that, but it's worth it. And matter of fact, her fee is not nearly as high as some of the other companies I've worked with in the past that will do the same thing. They'll use the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collections Practice Act on your behalf to get these items removed and to stop all the harassing calling. But you can stop the harassing calls yourself by just letting them know, I understand I understand I have a debt with you. I do. I get people this way. If it's a third party, send me to the address on record, the original documents. And my sister-in-law said the exact same thing. Felicia basically said, tell those third-party companies that contact you to provide you with the original debt information, and they'll leave you alone. And that's factual, because if they're third party, in most cases, they don't have the original. Okay. And what they'll do, they'll say, well, Mr. Jackson, give me the address so I can send it to. I'm like, no, I'm not going to provide you any information.
Do your job.
That's like me giving somebody a knife and say, we're about to fight. Here, take the knife and stab me. No, partner. I'm not giving you the weapon of your choice. What we're going to do is make it that now you have to send me your documentation, your verification documentation to the last address you have on record. Here's the beauty. This is how I was going to close this thing out. I was going to close it out by telling you how to get all those calls removed, not by fussing with people, but by going to your credit report. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Does that make sense so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Complete sense. I mean, total sense. Joe, because of the technical difficulties earlier, continue on 20 minutes past the hour.
Oh, well, look at you. He gave me some time, y'all. So listen, thank you, brother. What we're going to do is continue to go down this line, but I am going to give you, for those that have stuck it out with me, right, I'll give you a way to negate some of this phone calling and harassing and all that stuff. I mean, if you're getting them now, they're going to call you and you have some things you can say to them, but I'm going to help you to stop the madness. Okay. So with that being said, the question is, do you have to have perfect credit to buy a house? Absolutely not. Do you have to have perfect credit to do anything? No, you don't have to have perfect credit to do anything, but the better your credit is, the less you ultimately pay. Right. And you're right. Felicia, it was the same thing I just said. I'm having as much engagement on my Facebook page as I am with the content I'm sharing, but I love it. I do. So no, this is good information. I'm hoping. If it's good information, somebody give me some thumbs up. Let me know you're getting some information that actually helps. Right. What was another question we can go over before we close this puppy? Oh, great question. I asked, I think. Should I work with a credit repair agency to fix my credit, or is this something I can do myself? And it's actually a two-pronged answer. The answer is yes, this is something that you would go to a professional third-party credit repair agency to fix. But this is also some things that we can do individually to help offset some of the things that that we're talking about here. Okay. So here's the tip, and I'm not going to take too long with this, but I want you to take notes on this tip. Okay. The way this works, guys, and we've seen this. If you pull a credit report or you have your credit report pulled, right, it's going to show every name, we call them aliases, that you applied for credit for at any point. So if I go on my credit report, there's going to be a bunch of derivatives of my name. It's going to say Joseph Humphrey. It's going to say Joseph M. Humphrey, Joseph Methodius Humphrey, Joe M. Humphrey, Joe M. Murphy. It's going to have Joshua Humphrey. It's going to have Joseph Humphrey the second. It's going to have about 8 or 9 different variations of my name. It's also going to have different addresses that I lived in the past several years. So imagine this, guys. If you apply for credit at, you go to a car dealership, Mr. Jackson, and you apply for credit, and you either got it or didn't get the car, doesn't matter. 2 years later, you move to a different address, right? Your old address is still on your credit report.
Yes, sir.
And the address prior to that is on your credit report.
Yes, sir.
The address prior to that is on your credit report.
Yes, sir.
How do you think these people find us, man? They find us on our credit, on our credit, in the credit web, by our addresses, by our names, not just our social number. It's all these different. It's an information portion of your credit report. Everyone that has a credit report has a section that is just your information section, right? If you follow me, this is my instruction. And I'm going to say, draft a letter. I'll tell you what the letter is going to say. You draft a letter to Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, basically saying, consolidate all my information. I don't live at that address. I don't go by Joe M. Humphrey, and I'm certainly not Joe Murphy. So consolidate all of my names and utilize my actual government name. How do I prove this is my actual government name? I'm going to accompany this letter with a copy of, in this case, my Texas driver's license. I'm also going to accompany a copy of my social security card. I'm talking about doing this to the credit reporting agencies, guys. Okay? Because when you do that, they have to in turn acquiesce to your request. That's a good statement, right? Acquiesce to your request and do what you've asked, which is to take away all the derivatives of your name and just have your actual government name that matches your Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, North Carolina, whatever driver's license you give them, right? To prove that this is actually my name, this is actually my address. You can even go a step further if they were to ask, and you can bring forth what we call proof of residence, POR. That's just basically a bill coming in your name, and it matches the address that's on your driver's license. That's proof enough for these agencies to go and start taking these items off your credit report. Guys, it sounds like it's not a lot, and it really is not a lot, right? It's not a lot to do, but what it will do is amazing. Because I have to explain this, Malcolm. The way the companies track us down is a systematic way that I call, it's likened unto skip tracing. I don't know if you've heard that term, skip tracing.
Yes.
Okay. So what they're doing, they have your information. They have Joe Humphrey, all the derivatives of my name, right? So the name they have don't even have to match as long as it's one of the derivatives, it's okay, right?
Aliases count.
They are aliases. They're all aliases, right? But you're going to find when you get your credit pulled, everybody, I don't care. I have never seen anyone's credit that only had one name on it, unless I gave them this instruction. And then when we repulled their credit, it only shows one name. Okay. Skip tracing is when they take a item on your credit report and they find you based on that item, right? So imagine if you, like I was saying, Mr. Jackson lived at 1234 Plymouth Road, right? If that address is on his credit report, That's how they find you. They're doing stabs in the dark, man. They don't know that you moved over to, you moved on up like George and Wheezy. You got a big old beautiful house out there in the woodlands. They don't know that address. Okay. They're tracking you down and skip tracing to your previous address.
Okay.
That's how they can attach that old bill to you. Mm. But imagine if that previous address wasn't on your credit report anymore.
Couldn't track it.
They couldn't track it. Are you feeling what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
It's the same way with the different names. If the name, because I'm not the only Joseph M. Humphrey on the planet, or excuse me, not in America. They might have the name, and they might even have the social number. But you know what happens with social numbers all the time? They get the numbers, the input can be inaccurate because it's human beings oftentimes as data entry clerks putting the information in the system. Okay. Even if it's computer generated, it's still programmed by somebody, and there's room for what's known as human error. So it's like the Miranda rights. It's not the fact that you robbed the bank. It's the fact that they got to go through the proper protocol to have everything admissible in court.
Recordings, fingerprints.
They got to have everything. It can't be speculation, because the attorney would say, they would say that's speculatory. I object, Your Honor. That's speculation. And what's the word that Your Honor would say? The judge would say.
Sustained. There you go.
Right.
Yes.
That means that you're right. You're right. So now, prosecuting attorney, you got to change your action. See, the credit reporting agencies are like the prosecuting attorneys, right? The law that we have is like the judge, and we are the plaintiffs being accused of having or doing something.
and that's when they say you have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay. This is a court of law. This is literally the language, the legal language of our justice system. But understand that this is an offshoot. It ain't the same thing, of course, but it's still dealing with the American citizens. Yes. Knowing your rights. It's just the same way that you know your rights when it comes to being pulled over by a police officer.
Yes, sir.
They can't just take you and bully you and put you in handcuffs because you're black or you wear two sets of glasses on your face. They gotta have more than that. Or they can just harass us every day, all day. As soon as we walk out our door, they're just pulling us over.
Right.
They can't just do that. They have to have just cause to do it.
Probable cause.
Probable cause. There you go.
Yes.
It's very similar with what we're talking about with this. Now, of course, we're not talking about anything as egregious as breaking a crime, because let me say this again. I think this needs to be said. Having less than perfect credit is not a crime, ladies and gentlemen. And if people try and act like I've heard people tell me, and I've heard, listen, I've heard it all over the years. People are telling me, debt collector is saying, we're going to send somebody up to your job tomorrow. We're just here to call. We're just confirming your address. Well, send them to the address you have on record, sucker. Because I don't even work the job that you think
don't even work the job.
And I ain't going to tell you where I work. No more, I'm going to tell you where I live. But guys, all seriousness, when we do this and we clean up and consolidate the information on the information portion of our credit report, it now disallows them to find us. They can't find us nearly as easily because they're finding us with all these old addresses. They're finding us with man, God forbid, if you put your old jobs on there, which you will do, because if you apply for credit and they ask on the application, where do you work? Well, I work at Real Talk 100 Radio. Well, guess what they're going to do? They're going to skip trace and they're going to say, okay, I got 4 out of 5 items. This is Mr. Jackson. Or I only got 2 out of the 5 or 6 or 7 items. This may or may not be the same Mr. Jackson, but let's go for it. And let's just see. And they'll come after you. With this, it takes all that information away from them, because that's all they're doing. They're pulling it up to see. It's all public record. So they're trying to see, okay, is this the same Joe Humphrey that owes me $3,000? Right? Let me go to my people and see what they're talking about here. Oh, and Fifi is saying they track relatives the same way. Now, just so you know, Felicia, that's illegal. They do it, but that's illegal for them to do that. That's part of the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. They cannot call you on a debt for Cindy talking about that debt. All they can do with you as a relative is to see if you have any knowledge of where and how they could reach Cindy. They cannot. If they tell you anything that Cindy owes this, that, or the other, they have broken the trust, the confidentiality, right? And just because I'm a relative of yours don't mean that I get to know all your business. So you're right, dear. They are just what we know as fear tactics. Because if you don't know that they can't ask you, what are you going to do? Well, Malcolm is over here and over there. No, they're breaking the law. And if you tell it to the right person, guess what? You might be able to have somebody collect $10,000 because that's their penalty. That's their penalty, guys, for breaking the. When I say the law, I'm talking about the tenets of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and its big cousin, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. That, in a nutshell, guys, is how the whole credit reporting system that we know in America is governed by, because it had to be governed because they were taking advantage of people's ignorance. And guess what? They're still taking advantage of people's ignorance. You know, they have us so fearful that we act like we can't even pick up the phone now. Because if we pick up the phone, that it, like it starts the 7-year process all over. No, it does not. Just just by picking up your phone doesn't start it all over. But if you make any kind of engagement with them, 6 years later, and they're asking you to pay just $10 a month, you're now starting that 7-year period all over again. So remember, the older it is, the less of negative. The older the negative stuff is, the less impact it has. So the older it gets, if it gets to be 6 or 7 years old, why would you want to start dealing with it again? You wonder why you start dealing with it and your score goes down. Well, yeah, because now the history on that account has just been updated. And now it starts all over. And it affects your credit. So we don't want that. So again, the drafting of the letter, I guess what I could do at a subsequent program, I can make the letter somehow available. Or for those that want the letter, either from my Facebook group or from Malcolm's, I guess we're here live, so we're good. The Facebook group here, or the group that's listening on YouTube or Instagram, just put in the chat that you want the information on the letter, and I can make sure I can have a PDF sent to you, because it's a very simple letter. Again, all it's doing is asking respectfully that you eliminate some of the extra unusable addresses and names on my credit bureau. Now, I'm not asking them to do this so they won't be able to skip trace me. No, I'm asking, the logic behind this, guys, is how can I be held accountable to pay something if they're sending correspondence to an old address that I'm no longer there? So I don't want all these old addresses on my credit report. Just put the address that I live at right now. That's the reason. That's the rationale behind it, and that's why the credit agencies are not going to say no. They're going to say, okay, of course we'll do it, because you brought forth proof that this is your name, this is your current address, right? So that's the wisdom behind it. They don't question you, they just do it. But as a result, now these creditors or these predators can't come after you utilizing this information, utilizing your own information against you. Come on, y'all, think about that. They are utilizing and using our own information against us. So we have every right to tell these individuals, no. You can't, if you're gonna play the game, you can't do it like that. We're gonna level this playing field. And that's how we level the playing field, by getting knowledge of a thing and then getting that knowledge as instruction and then doing the instruction. It's inevitable you're gonna get the results. And I'll tell you this, I've done this myself personally to get a boost on my credit score, right? And personally, I got a boost. I think it was with all 3 bureaus, it was over 50 points. It was over 50 points that my score bumped up. And the reason, again, is that those other companies who normally report can't find you now. You're in the matrix, y'all. They can't find you as easily. They're doing skip tracing practices to find you, and that's why it's on your credit report. But again, this part doesn't require any credit restoration companies to do. This is what I was alluding to when I said there's some things you can do on your own. One of the things you can do, there's 3 things you can do on your own, guys, to repair your credit. You want to hear those 3 things? 1, pay your bills on time. Do whatever you can to make your payments on time. What is the point of repairing your credit if your credit report is still hemorrhaging is bloody because you ain't caught up with nobody. You still ain't paying nobody on time. So even before starting a credit restoration, this is part of the education, right? Before you even start a credit restoration program with anybody, make the decision, guys, that, okay, I want this to end. I want to change this, right? I can't change the history. I can't change that I got a divorce. That happened. Boom. I'm glad I did. Cindy's glad I did. I mean, we can't change that. And as a result of that divorce, things happen financially. We can't change that, guys. Right? But what we can do is make a decision that from this point moving forward, I'm going to do everything that's within me to make sure I pay everyone as agreed. That's the first thing. The second thing is if I find myself with credit cards, revolving credit, right? If my utilization, which means my balance that I carry from month to month, is over 30%, I want to start working on paying those cards down, paying those balances down. Now, that's the rule of thumb. 30% is the rule. Obviously, if 30% is the rule, if you do 20%, you're actually helping yourself even more, right? So paying your bills on time, paying your cards, your credit cards down. If you got a $10,000 card and it holds 9,500, that means you have 95% utilization. It penalizes you, even if you haven't made any late payments on that credit card. And understand this, guys, that the utilization on a credit card, on all of your credit cards, is 21% of your credit score. And I'm not just making that number up. It's 21% of your composite risk score, your credit score, comes from your utilization. How well do you utilize credit, right? And there's nothing wrong with utilizing credit at a higher amount, but what you want to do is start focusing on paying those amounts down, right? And there's some instances, and the young lady alluded to it last week, that if you have I'll use Navy Federal as an example. If you have a Navy Federal credit card, they've given you $10,000. If you are utilizing it, not missing any payments, right? And you find that you're carrying a very high balance, that's not always a bad thing. That also can be used as leverage with them to say, listen, you've given me 10,000. I've shown the capacity and the credit and the history to pay on time, but things have changed in the last 2 years, and now I want an increase on my limit, on my spending limit. You'd be surprised they'll be willing to do it if you have a good history with them, right?
While you're on that subject, explain something to me. I read this before, and I heard this before. What is wrong with if you have a $5,500 credit limit and you've spent $3,200? What is wrong with going and saying, "There's the whole $3,200"? I heard that was wrong. You're supposed to pay it in payments.
No, it's not that it's wrong. They want to. What people are saying is that if you just pay off your card like it's an American Express, because American Express actually requires you pay every 30 days. You pay your balance. Carrying balances on American Express is not a good thing. They charge you heavily. So what they're saying is when you have a credit card and you just pay off the balance, it's not that it's a bad thing, but if you don't use that credit card anymore, now it looks like the card is no longer active.
Okay.
And that's where the challenge comes in. So you want to carry some balance on those cards because you're using them.
Okay.
So that's what utilization is. It's 21% of your score. But if you're not utilizing them, you're not concerned about your credit score going down as much as you might be concerned about the company closing out that card for inactivity.
Okay.
So you want to keep it active.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So yeah, I hope that makes sense to people. And again, the 3 things that you can affect with your credit without having to go through a credit restoration company, which I'm an advocate of. I advocate for credit restoration companies. I liken that to dentists. I don't want to go and start working on my own teeth. It's very painful, I would imagine. It would probably run the risk of mad infection. But we go at our credit thinking that, okay, I don't have a DDS behind my name, or whatever. I don't know the fair, again, when I'm talking about the Fair Credit Reporting Act, man, it's this many pages, y'all. If I'm talking about the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, it's this many pages. I'm not an expert on that. So why would I go and repair my credit utilizing those two acts of Congress if I'm not an expert? Again, it's likened unto going, as opposed to going to the dentist, I decide to do it myself. This is not a do-it-yourself type of thing, but I'm giving you insider trader secrets to say, yeah, you can't do the major work by yourself, but you can do these three things by yourself. Pay your bills on time, regardless of how you've been paying before. Stop the bleeding, as me and my wife says. Stop the bleeding on your accounts, right? And once you stop the bleeding and start reestablishing yourself, you're now able to pay. Then you want to control, especially with your revolving credit, how much you're carrying from month to month on those credit cards. It's called utilization. It's 21% of your credit score. So if you're overutilizing your credit, revolving credit, it's going to hurt you. It's just the way it is. Again, even if you don't miss any payments on that card, the card is still bringing your score down a bit. It could be much higher because you got good history on it, but your utilization is now making that card a wash. It's not helping you as much as you would think, as much as it should be helping you. And I have situations that I talk to people about, and it's called a double whammy card. Here's a double whammy card, guys. A double whammy card is a card that you have lates on and you overdrafted it, or you got a high utilization. That thing is killing your credit. In those instances, no, we would ask you to stop the bleeding with those types of cards, right? If you've been late on it and you have overutilization, start paying it on time, right? Even if you got to pay minimum, just make sure you're paying it get a good record of that, right? Of payments. Then start working on paying those balances down, as opposed to guys doing stuff like getting our income tax and paying for a big screen TV. How about we get our income tax and start putting money towards getting our credit up or starting a business? God forbid that rich people, right? They pay to educate themselves. Poor people pay to entertain themselves. That's why in big rich people's houses, they got a big old library. They got books that they've read that they advocate, that say, hey man, all these books in my library. You go to a poor folks house that get a little money, you know what they got? They got big TVs everywhere. And I'm guilty. We got big TVs, but we got a library as well. Why? Because you want to educate yourself to improve, not to entertain yourself, to soothe. Soothe yourself from all the stuff that it takes to be a black man in America. No, man. We want to change the paradigm. We want to change the results. It starts with changing our way of thinking about it, our way of looking at it. Right? So paying our cards down is essential. Right? And the third thing, what I just went over, drafting the letter requesting to consolidate your information. Again, the reason behind it is that how can I be Mr. or Mrs. Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian? How can I be expected to be knowledgeable and pay something if they're sending this to an old address that I haven't lived in years, right? So get that address removed. And what that does is now they can't use an address against you to attach that debt to your credit report, right? Some things are just, with this consolidation effect, are just not going to be able to be reported on your credit report. And what it's going to do, it's going to cause your credit scores to go up. That's my nugget for you today. And I know it works. I've done it for myself. And I've also done it for people that I helped buy houses, right? My wife is saying, get the info. You don't know what you don't know. And that's facts, man. We just don't know what we don't know. So most people, because we don't know it, we just think it doesn't exist. We treat it, it's not that we think it doesn't exist. We just treat it like it doesn't exist. And it's just what it is. It's what it is. It is what it is. And if you don't like what it is, stop saying it is what it is.
Right.
Change it.
Change it.
We're giving you some information to change it.
Yes, sir.
But the change starts up here. It starts in our mind to say, let's have a paradigm shift. I'm speaking for someone that's not myself. I've had bad credit all my life. Why do I need good credit now? I got everything I want. I pay cash for everything. And people think that way. Here's the thing. Back in the day, and we've always heard that cash is king. Yeah, cash is king, but we're in a credit-driven society. So it's great to have cash, but it's better to operate in what I call OPM.
Other people's money.
Other people's money.
Yes, sir.
Why would I? Think about this. I'm an entrepreneurial individual. I want to acquire a building, right? Why would I want to, if I had the money to do it, why would I want to put all my money and tie it into that? Wouldn't it be better to leverage my money?
Yes, sir.
That's called capital, right? And I leverage my money to get OPM in effect, other people's money, putting it at risk. That's where my credit comes in.
Yes.
Am I the type of guy that puts other people's money at risk and pay them back as agreed or not? If I do, then guess what? It increases the chance, the probability they'll say yes to my offer of leveraging my money with your money. Yes. Because I got money, but you're a bank. You got a whole lot more money.
Yes.
You dig what I'm saying? That's the difference. And some people say, I don't want to do that. Well, yeah, if you don't want to do it, listen, I'm not here to change the world in that regard. I'm here to help. If it's one person navigate through this, we're doing well. Obviously, we want more than just one person, but if it's just one person that gets this information, say, yep, this is good information. I think it's going to help. And it literally helps them. Then we ourselves have done a service in our community, right? I want to share a thought and we're going to close out in a moment. The thought it's been in my mind for a while. I have a good friend. I'll give him a shout out. His name is Pastor David Johnson. Pastor David came to me years ago about my mortgage office that I was starting up in Flint, Michigan. And he said to me, he says, Joe, I've been, led to pray for you and your business. And the Lord spoke a principle to me. And the principle he spoke was, in a nutshell, where there is no margin, there is no ministry. And what he meant by that is he said, you've got to be successful because your office, God is going to use your office because of the heart you have towards the people in the community. He's going to use your office as a vehicle towards and for community empowerment when it comes to financing, when it comes to all these different things that you're going to be doing. Home ownership, you're going to be a financial vehicle for empowerment in the community. If you're not making money in your business, if there's no margin, profit margin, there is no ministry, there's no helping the people in the community. You've got to remain solvent, meaning your business got to be, God has got to prosper your business in order for you to do the things you're going to do in the community, because the things you're going to do in the community cost money.
Yes.
So if there is no profit, or excuse me, if there's no margin, if there's no margin, there is no ministry. And I understand that even with what we're doing here today. What I do right now, I make for win-win scenarios. I want you to win. But if I'm running a business, my business has to be profitable. Yes. Which leads me to this thought. And my wife and I talk about this all the time. It's one of those pet peeves that husbands and wives can sit back and talk about, wish the world were better. When it comes to us, and you know what I mean by us, I'm talking about us people. Mm-hmm. See how I'm doing my hand? Mm-hmm. Us, y'all. When we go into business, everyone that knows us, right? That knows us, loves us, knows of us, know we got a reputation for being good at whatever. Because we are who we are, Black folks, why is everybody always wanting a discount? Man. Why is it that when it comes to a Black-owned business, we're expecting the hookup? If we're cool with this person, we know this person, we even have love for them, why would we want to minimize their margin of profitability because they know us? In other words, your business is going to do worse because of people like me, because I love you, I know you, I like you, and I feel like you owe me to give me discounted prices.
Yes, sir. Never fails.
It's just the way it is, man. But it's a pet peeve of mine, because if I love my sister and my sister starts a business, if anything, why am I going to her asking for a discount? If anything, I should be asking to pay more to help her business.
Right.
But we don't move like that.
Mm-mm.
We think that if somebody starts a business, they're supposed to get the hookup. They're supposed to get the, y'all know what I'm talking about. They want the best pricing. I don't care if it's at your cost. So I gotta lose my margin because I'm working with relatives or working with friends and family. And it makes some people say, I'm not gonna work with friends and family. Another flip side of that, since I have an extra 2 minutes. Thank you, Malcolm.
You're welcome.
The flip side of that is when it comes to dealing with us who are in a professional capacity. Hear what I'm saying, guys. Some of us don't want to divulge any of your business to someone like me. It's funny to me, man.
Mm-mm.
But they'll divulge everything to our counterpart, to our white counterpart.
Yep.
Think about it.
I don't get
my social number over the phone. Yes, you do. You have done it dozens of times, but you did it with people that you felt, you could trust.
Yes.
White folks. I can trust them. They got the expertise, boss. They know it. You don't know it. You just like me. You're a black person. You can't know what they know. And unfortunately, I'm sort of mocking the situation, but understand it's real in the field. We deal with it all the time. I've had white loan officers that I've trained. I personally have trained. Right. And a brother comes into the building and he wants to pay his mortgage payment. We were at a mortgage company together, me and these guys. Comes in, I greet him, and he's like, no, I want to deal with her. I said, you want to deal with her? And I'm saying to myself, like, why you want to deal with her? She don't know a fraction of what I know because I'm training her. He don't know I'm training her, but he's like, no, he was like, I want to deal with her.
And it was this?
He's a brother, I'm a brother. He pointed to a white woman. I want to work with the white woman.
And you trained her.
I'm training them at the time. They're in training, right? And my wife knows this is real, man. And you're right, Stacey. It's all about mindsets, right?
Wow.
And unfortunately, when it comes to any human being, we sometimes have mindsets because of what's going on in our lives. We had something traumatic happen. We make a decision. I'm never going to let that happen again. And now we tend to overgeneralize. If we see that thing or we think that thing is coming up in our lives, we put our guards up, our dukes up, and we ain't letting nobody come and do us wrong like they did 15 years ago or whatever. It's just the way it is. But the guy comes in, says he want to talk he want to work with the other woman. I'm like, okay, that's cool. He goes to work with her. I've trained her to say, hey, I know you're here to make your payment, but do you happen to have your monthly statement? Yeah, I got my statement. We see he's paying, because back in the day, they was paying double-digit interest rates. He's paying whatever it was, 17.5%. And she said, hey, would you be interested in knowing that, we can actually probably cut this interest rate in half and maybe cut your payment down quite a bit? Would you be interested in hearing how we can do that? He was like, sure. Okay, let me get you my team lead. I wasn't the branch manager at the time. I was just one of the top producers. So she goes and brings me in, and I'm looking at the cat that swallowed the canary and still got the cat's fur coming out the side of my mouth. I'm going like this. Can y'all see me? I'm going like this. Now, Negro, you want to talk to me? So I say all of that. I don't want to tell you how the story ended, but I'd say all of that to say that we have been put in a paradigm that we don't trust each other. Right. And that's to our own detriment. That has to change. Right. And you're right, cuz it's a mindset. And unfortunately, that mindset, see, it doesn't affect me, Malcolm, because real talk, cream goes to the top all automatically anyway. It's just what it is. And I'm not trying to be braggadocious. I'm not saying that to be impressive or impress somebody. I'm just saying that's my mindset. I'm gonna get mine anyway. I ain't gonna worry about this. Yes. However, it's to your detriment that you don't utilize the toolkit that I represent to you, because my skin color matches yours, and your experience with other people that match your skin color is that you can't trust them. Man, we got to do better.
Has anybody ever given you a valid reason for that? There
is no valid reason, because it's emotional. It's what they, and again, I can never tell somebody, hey man, you don't have a right to choose me. No, you would choose her, choose him. It is what it is. But just understand that you're not getting the best, right? You're not getting the best that this company has to offer, because you're getting it from someone who doesn't even know, because they're still under training. But so the point is, you are so hell-bent, right? And that same person, I don't even know him personally, but that same person might have been the one that was like, what if you were to tell them, they wouldn't even acknowledge that they do this, but they do. It's a subliminal thing, subconscious thing. I just trust. Can you imagine being ill, and some people don't like foreign doctors, and a foreign doctor comes to you, and you all like, yeah, nope. But if a white person comes, I just trust everything they said because I trust the source.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, I don't suffer from that type of thing myself because I know that an Asian doctor can be just as good as a white doctor, can be just as good as a black doctor, can be just as good as an Indian doctor.
Yes.
But some people are really on that. So they it is what it is.
Mm.
But the mindset, and I guess we're going to close out with this, the mindset shift has got to be, we don't see black and white because they're not coming at us in black and white. They're coming at us for green, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they want. That's what they're coming to get. And trust me, they're getting it. Getting it. Because most of us don't know that we're being used and abused and served like hell. We don't know. We just feel like, okay, I made the mistake. I didn't pay. I got, whatever. And they come after me. How many has had a car repossessed, right? The frustration of living through the repossession. They took the car from you. They show you on your credit report that you have what's known as a repossession, right? So it's an I-8. Installment loan 8 means it was repoed. That's the code, right? Then they come after you guys for what's known as the deficiency balance. In other words, they stole your car. They took your car, literally stole it from you, right? Took it, sold it at auction, and got a fraction of what you still owe on it. So they come after you for the difference. It's called a deficiency balance. And they sue you for taking your car, selling it at auction, and not getting a fraction of what you owed. Well, sucker, I bought the car from you. So if I owe $17,000 and the car is only worth $6,000, that means you overcharged me for the car.
Mm-hmm.
Then you took it from me. Now you're going to come and try and make me pay $11,000? It wasn't even worth the $11,000. You see how corrupt the system is, guys? But that is an everyday occurrence in America, bro. Somebody gets their car repossessed because they fell 3 payments behind. The company comes and orders the car to get picked up. Now you got to pay for the towing. You got to pay for all the other stuff. And they're going to hit you with the deficiency balance that you owe. You still owe us $11,000. And that I-8, oh yeah, it's still on your credit report. So your credit sucks. You got all this stuff going on. And here we are trying to pay the deficiency balance.
Crazy game.
It's a crazy game, but when you know the rules, you change your activity, man. You change the way you look at it. And then you certainly can change the game because you ain't gonna play the game as no victim. You're gonna play the game as somebody that know what's up now.
Yes.
Now that you know what's up, you can go and say, listen, I ain't falling for that banana in the tailpipe. You've already took the car. You repoed my car. So you got the collateral. If you take it to the auction and try and sell it wholesale and you didn't get your money back, hey man, that's on you. How is that now on me? You took it from me and now you're gonna go sell it wholesale. You sold it to me triple retail and then wonder why you couldn't collect at an auction to pay the balance. Well, you couldn't pay the balance because you charged me too much for it.
Crazy how it happened.
Man.
It's a crazy game in an unfair world.
It's an unfair world.
Dog eat dog world, and you will get eaten by a dog if you don't know the game.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. We putting you up on game with this radio broadcast. That is what the Cup of Joe Morning Show is all about. I'm hoping that you enjoy the information because the information is coming with it's education coming through entertainment. We're making jokes about some things, and that's just hopefully helping you to understand, and digest the information. But the understanding and the reality of it is, our hope is that you'll take this information and you'll utilize it, and it'll change some things in your life. And that betterment now is worth telling to other people, right? Pay it forward to other people. You dig? And that's my hope. So with that being said, I want you to cue up that second song, man. And we're going to close out on that.
Before I cue up the second song, Joe,
Yeah.
I want you to explain
Okay.
in detail this flyer, when people can tune in, and when they tune in, what can they look forward to?
Listen, every Wednesday from 10 a.m. Central Standard Time to 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. Soon, we can go and claim it now. We're going to go to 2 hours, guys. We've been laughing and joking about it, but we're going to go to 2 hours. So moving forward in next month, we're going to start at 10 and we're going to go to 12. But more importantly, we're going to give you information that will be solid information that you can go and research yourself. Okay. Because anything I've said, everything I've said, it's researchable, right? And I can say, go Google Fair Credit Reporting Act. And you're going to see it's an act of Congress that has a lot of information. But our intent, again, on this radio broadcast is to give you information that we believe is going to be helpful, that's going to help you navigate not just through the financial world, but also through relationships, because we are relating to other people. And if we can't, listen, we can have our finances all in order, but if we can't get along with our spouse or can't get along with my brother or can't get along with somebody that I have to get along with, guess what? No matter how much money you're making, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be, because relationships is what fulfill us. So we're going to be talking about relationships. You know, I know my weaknesses and I also know my strengths. Everyone should know their weaknesses and their strengths. And you should not feel because you have a strength you have a weakness that someone else is strong in. It is so unwise to compare your weakness to somebody else's strength. Because you might have a strength that person that you see is so super strong has a terrible weakness. But if they have wisdom, they're not going to compare their weakness to your strength, because that's unfair to them and it's unwise to do that. So what we're going to do is just be real on this Real Talk 100 radio broadcast and say, listen, we're going to do a holistic approach to help with relationships, with finances, even if it comes down to you have questions regarding whatever it might be. If I don't have the answer, I'm the dude that will go get the answer, then come back like the Pony Express with the information. I think at the end of the day, you'll respect me more to be the one that will admit, I don't know that, but what I'll do is go and research it for you, then come back with the information. That's what this broadcast is all about. So tag your friends, tell a friend, get the replay of this. And I want you to tell them where they can get the replay on the Cup of Joe Morning Show on Real Talk 100 Radio.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can watch the replay at any time by clicking to Real Talk 100 Radio on YouTube or Facebook. Anytime. After you watch the replay and you want more information, I'm putting the information on the screen for Cup of Joe. This is all of his contact information. Contact him at 832-714-1003. That's also his website, jhumphrey at summitmortgage.com. That's also his web. Is this another website? Two websites, ascent.summitmortgage.com.
Yeah, one's an email, and one is is my actual website where you can go on to apply, where you see Ascent at Summit. That's where you would go and apply for a loan, and we'll do our best to get you approved. And we'll come in on one day, man, and we'll talk about what we're doing special in the mortgage space that realtors are just like, when they hear what we're offering, they're like, oh my goodness, where have you been all my life? You know what I mean? It's some good stuff, man. So with that, I don't want to belabor the point. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you next week, God willing, and same bat time, same bat station. Tune in and bring a friend. God bless.
God bless everybody. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. There's the flyer on the screen. If you're watching the replay, please put hashtag replay in the comments. Give Joe a call. He's very knowledgeable about credit as it pertains to purchasing a home. He's very knowledgeable about purchasing homes. If you're a first-time buyer, if you're a buyer that went through hell buying that first home and you want to make it a simpler process, you want to make it a more beneficial process, contact Cup of Joe, everybody, at 832-714-1003. There's his website. There's his email. Reach out. We'll see y'all next Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Real Talk 100 Radio. Y'all have a good day, everybody.
Cup of Joe Morning Show. Cup of Joe Morning Show. show. Joe Morning show. Joe Morning show.